Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT Rostermania, the final team in the North American scene. We don't really know what they're up to is none other than Evil Geniuses. Rumours circulating though and some leaks coming out that maybe Supamen, formerly of FaZe, and also Dapr of Sentinels could be trialling with this new EG lineup. Marved though, still nowhere to be seen. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thanks very much indeed for doing that one. Smash through 34,000 subscribers as well. Thanks very much for the support the last few days. Let's dive straight into things here then. Firstly, with this from VALORANT themselves, Harbour, the new agent, officially confirmed. They do a really nice video actually kind of explaining the lore behind the character and, well, pretty much giving a look at what his abilities may well be. So, pretty cool video. Now, look, we know where he's like a waterbender, right? So he's got this wall, kind of strange in a way because a lot of his abilities look incredibly similar to Viper, really. It's just like, you know, it's made of water, not the kind of green venomous smoke the Viper's got going on there. I'm sure there are going to be some differences, of course, but, you know, still interesting nonetheless. So, yes, he's got a wall, right? A wall-to-wall that he has to bring up, which is impenetrable. So it's kind of like an Astra type situation. But, yeah, like, I don't know. It's pretty interesting because a lot of people are looking at this already thinking, damn, this is going to be pretty damn strong if this is true. Now, it might not be so easy to kind of activate and bring this up because it has been seen that he has some sort of orb here, which he needs to kind of like bring along a throw out kind of thing to actually set the wall up. So it's not maybe quite like Astra's wall where you can just bring it down from the sky. It has to kind of be set up in some way or another. So that maybe is something to keep in mind here. So like, yeah, he has to send out an orb to kind of make this wall get created, but still does seem rather strong in fairness. And then there's some other things as well. So he's got this water bubble that can't be shot through. Now, unclear whether he can shoot through its back, which seems like that would be unlikely because if he could, that would be rather strong. Whether he can just put it around himself or whether he can put it around teammates, right? Because that'd be interesting if he can put a water bubble around other teammates rather than just himself. But yeah, seems impenetrable. Then there's a tidal wave you guys can see here in the background. Not exactly sure what the tidal wave's going to do, whether you can use it to like force enemies out of the way in certain situations, not sure. But that was spotted. And then also this kind of geyser pool as has been discussed here, whether it's like an area of effect, like damage type thing. Who knows? And we also don't really know like which of these his ult is going to be necessarily. So we don't know that much as yet, but I think still pretty cool. And look, as I say, the last few agents, even the Neons, Chamber most certainly, and of course, even recently Fade, very viable right now in competitive. So I'd be very surprised if Harbour also isn't viable and can replace some of the other controllers that we see used in the meta right now. Let's talk Rostermania then. Angel signing a contract, it is officially says, formerly of FPX, now we believe of Na'Vi. We believe the FPX core is going to go to Na'Vi. The rumor was it was going to be minus Ardis, of course, who's going to NRG, plus cNed joining the roster. Now, as it seems now, that might not be so clearly to be the case anymore because cNed didn't like do a signing gift like this, even though a fair few of the FPX guys did, with the addition of Safe, actually, who may be in conversation here, not really sure. He's been using the Chamber lately, so there might be a world in which Safe becomes the kind of the new Chamber player for this roster in place of Ardis and potentially in place of cNed, just because we know that cNed has a lot of offers on the table, so he could go to a BBL, he could go to another organization, at least we believe he has offers on the table, but you'd have thought Na'Vi in place of Ardis would make a lot of sense there, so I wouldn't rule that out yet. It's been rumored by George Geddes and the like, so just because Safe happens to do a contract signing gift at the same time doesn't mean it's guaranteed. But interesting to note this from zyppan actually, who kind of does this like crying gift thing, because all of his other teammates, with the exception of zyppan, were announcing, you know, they'd signed a deal and maybe he's not going to be there right in the new Na'Vi lineup, which we thought was going to be the FPX team pretty much with no changes or maybe one change in the Chamber role. Maybe there's more than that's coming on right now. So yeah, unfortunate for zyppan if he's not there, but yeah, that's the thing. With players that find out they're no longer part of the team's plans relatively late on in these discussions, it does make it more challenging for them to actually find a spot elsewhere. That's the case you could argue here for Dapr. We'll see that in a second on the Evil Geniuses side of things. This quickly from Zeta Division, they're making moves. They've welcomed back Raider, and there's been some talk about even Lackey. I think he was rumored to join, potentially T1. That's probably not going to be the case anymore. So things are really kicking off in other regions. Some confirmations are starting to come through, and the Japanese scene built different with 30,000 likes on this tweet. So yeah, Zeta Division, of course, they made it to franchising for the Japanese region. They continue to dominate that region from the VALORANT perspective as it stands. This from George Geddes though, because Cloud9, we do believe indeed they're going to lock in this roster rather soon, and I thought this is a pretty good spot actually here from George. You guys can see in the background on the left hand side of Zeltis' screen this particular curtain. It's kind of creased in a certain way, the black curtain, and it's pretty much the same curtain here that you guys can see in this image on the back right hand side of of Zeph's stream, and then of course they've been talking a fair bit. So yeah, looks almost certain now that these guys will indeed be teaming up with Ye more than likely on that Cloud9 roster for next season, alongside Leaf of course, and Vanity as well. And speaking of Vanity, he actually tweeted this one out, kind of nice motivational type stuff, and even Marved says thank you for this, right? Luck smiles at us all from time to time when it does, etc, etc. Thanks for this, says Marved. So what's going on with Marved? We don't really know. The theory is, I think that a lot of people have, is that he thought the Sentinels offer might have been there. Maybe he did have a Sentinels offer, but then they changed their mind, went down the route of Sasia and Pancada from Loud. Therefore, Marved no longer has a spot there. The NRG team we think is locked in with Som as their controller, and of course we know Cloud9 and 100 Thieves aren't going to get Marved. At least that's our present understanding. So where does Marved go? EG is the only team really available in the North American side, unless he goes to a South American team or joins a different region. And even some have suggested Marved might be forced into taking a break, which would be, certainly quite the surprise after the OpTic situation of last season, considered one of the best controllers in the entire world. So definitely a crazy situation. But speaking of evil geniuses here, Flynn, who's kind of been coming out with these updates all around the world in terms of what the rosters look like, actually took the step of removing Apoth and Reformed from evil geniuses, but putting the green next to Boostio, Com and Jorgamo. Not necessarily technically confirmed, but all the leaks we've seen over the last couple of weeks or so have indicated that EG will stick with that core 3, which I think is certainly questionable. I understand the Jorgamo Boostio. I think Jorgamo's a great player, don't get me wrong, so I think he's definitely understandable that he's going to stay, and I think they share some responsibilities there with Boostio, so I can understand that. But you'd think in all the other roles they could look for some serious upgrades, because there are upgrades out there, and they might just be doing 2 upgrades in the kind of controller and flex initiator type position, and we'll have to figure out who those players might potentially be. Apparently Potter is for sure going to be back as well from their coaching staff going into next season. So yeah, EG, we don't really know what the plan is. In fairness, a lot of the kind of South American teams we also don't know, but EG could be getting, for example, a guy like Dapr. Now Flynn also goes on to say here, EG is trying insanely hard to have a total of 0 fans, so maybe this implies that Dapr won't be going here, or they're picking up kind of just boring players that don't have that much personality behind them. But it is interesting because all the other 4 organizations in North America I think are really exciting for their own reasons. EG are kind of doing nothing of much interest, to be perfectly honest. I mean, yeah, they're going to keep a couple of guys that came along with them initially, but it's do they realize they made franchising? Do they realize there's so many talented free agents out there that they could literally blow up their roster if they wanted to and start again and probably build a better team than they actually are now? Bodok says here, uninteresting roster moves, but all in all a roster that could potentially be scary if given the time to develop. So maybe he has a good idea on what they're exactly doing. Now, seemingly this app we talked about a few days ago that lets you see which players are playing with who behind the scenes in private scrims is still live. I thought that Riot would have shut this down by now, but you guys can see here that against the Knights guys, they are scrimming with Boostio, Com, Jorgamo, the classics, plus Wonton Lover, who we think might be Supamen. That is kind of formerly a FaZe and Rise before that. That's kind of what we believe might be the case there. And then there's this account here on the Breach with all the lines. Now Reddit detectives, as usual, are absolutely built different. So Acrobatic Wedding looked into this, clicked on the profile and found out that the account name used to be Unhand Thy RR, which, we believe might be Dapper's alt name. I'm not too familiar with this. If you guys know about that, let me know in the comment section below. But also he went on to say that this account can be seen duoing with Zelsis right before they were kind of boot camping for the LCQ, which of course would make a bit of sense given the roster they had going into the LCQ back in the start of August or whatever it was. So yeah, what do you guys think about this? Could Dapr to evil geniuses be a possibility? You would think that makes a fair bit of sense, to be honest. I would like to see Dapr on a team. There are plenty of players though that I would love to see on a team. The likes of BCJ and these guys, some of the former Exet players. There's so many talented players out there. Trent, for example, from the Guards. These guys deserve to be on a franchise team for sure. And you'd have thought EG might have said, you know what? There are so many. It's not like they're getting the leftovers necessarily, because some of these players are so good that I wouldn't necessarily so much consider them the leftovers really. But yeah, apparently that's what they're planning to do. So maybe Dapr, maybe Supamen joining this team. And of course, as he said a few days ago, Sentinels have offered me a role as a sub on the team, but have given me the ability to look for new teams as an unrestricted free agent. I believe he also went on to say that, he's going to recover from this, as he said here, been dealt bad hands consistently, this isn't going to stop me either. So effectively saying, look, he doesn't just want to sit there on the bench for Sentinels, he wants to be on his own team, get his, revenge maybe on Sentinels to a certain degree next season, and maybe at least, he might be trialing with this team. We don't know if they're going to lock him in or anything, but, EG have been trialing with a lot of players the last couple of weeks or so, and it seems like they're going to stick with their core 3 plus 2 more players, which I don't personally agree with, but you guys can have your thoughts in the comment section below, and which 2 players they bring in, who knows, because you'd have thought maybe even a BCJ could have been an option in a couple of these different roles, especially now Sentinels have practically confirmed that, yeah, TenZ is going to stay, Sassy's coming in, we think Pancada's there as well. So, yeah, the options are diminishing rapidly for many players right now, and of course, if you want to stay in the North American region on a North American English-speaking team, EG is kind of the only opportunity, but yeah, I think a lot of players here are going to be forced into the tier 2 side. I mean, as I said, if Supamen is joining there, I think that's kind of a nice pickup, but then they've got to look at, you know, babybay and some of the other players, even Dicey, B-Dog, these guys that are going around, incredibly talented players in their respective roles, aren't going to be in tier 1 unless they get a spot in the South American teams, which seems unlikely because of the language stuff, or in the European region, which might be an option for some of these players, and probably is something they will explore further. But even those teams, a lot of the top guys, they've already got their teams locked in as well. So definitely a messy situation. This also from Flynn, he kind of gives a guess on his thoughts on the EG roster. Busio, Com, Jorgamo, Marved, and Trent, all speculation. He says he's got nothing to back this up, and George Geddes is just laughing at it, right, saying that effectively this isn't going to be the case. So yeah, he doesn't reckon that Marved, maybe or Trent is going to be there. So we think maybe, you know, maybe Supamen and Dapr could be an option. It's tough to say. Just to say this as well real quick, because seemingly Russ, Cider, and Link have kind of been teaming up here a little bit in custom games as well, so potentially a trio to watch from the European side going into next season. Just to mention this real quick, I thought it was kind of crazy that Riot Games actually announced that Carlos R, after all the Andrew Tate drama with G2 stuff. I thought honestly he got punished enough for his organization. Well, now not really his organization anymore, because, well, I guess he still owns shares and stuff more than likely, but he's not the CEO any longer. Like, yeah, that organization failed to make it into Valorant, largely because of what happened a month or so ago, and he's actually been suspended from holding any managerial or operational position with a team or organization until, I think it's only for a couple of months, and he has to do some sort of training or something. But yeah, I don't know, I feel like this whole saga has got a little bit, you know, longer and further than I expected it to. But very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.